Us fixed gear riders, we care a lot about our builds, and we want our bikes to be a balance of craftsmanship, performance, durability, and reliability, and originality. Too often though, we start to pick from the same pool of components, and a lot of our builds start to look the same. No way, you have a mash with omniums and Thompson bits? You're so original. I wish I could be as big of an original hipster as you. To help remedy some of our cookie cutter custom builds, here are 10 underrated track components to keep your bike build fun to ride, looking great, bomb-proof, and reasonably original. What's up? I'm Zach Alardo. Life is short, but don't make it shorter. So ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous, and subscribe for more fixed gear videos just like this one. And of course, all the parts that we'll be talking about today will be linked in the description. Feel free to check those out at any point during this video. For steel bikes that weigh well under 20 pounds or 9 kilograms that you can customize to be your dream bike right out of the box, consider checking out Wabi Cycles linked at the top of the description. Sure, Omniums and Sagino 75s are stiff, fun to ride on, and reliable. Well, at least in the 75's case. But everyone seems to have them just because they're popular and well trusted, which are good reasons, but there are other cranksets that are also worth your attention. At number 10, we have the Andel Standard Tracks, or the Andel RSC1s, priced at around $130. And that's $130 for the cranks, the chainring, and the bottom bracket. Sure, they don't look as great as Sagino 75s, Omniums, or Dura Aces, but I've been riding in the Andel RSC1 for the past year. And honestly, if I was blindfolded and riding Andels or Sagino 75s, I wouldn't be able to tell difference. I know you shouldn't ride your bike blindfolded, but you get what I mean. Obviously, the biggest upside to this is the price. You get a really well-performing crankset for the money. They're plenty stiff, they feel great to sprint on and go up hills, and at no point while riding these cranks on the street do I wish that they were stiffer. The drawback though with the Andel cranks is that, of course, they don't look as good. In some people's opinions, the polished finishes on the cranks can look cheap, and the finish on the inside of the crank arms isn't nearly as nice. With these, you're definitely sacrificing looks to save some money, but you still get the same performance out of them compared to cranks that cost 2 times as much or even more. But if you don't want to sacrifice the looks of your crank sets, the IRD Defiance at around $170 for the cranks, chainring, and bottom brackets are an excellent choice. I rode a set of Defiance while I was reviewing the Soma Rush, and I was surprised that more people don't ride these cranks because these fluted cranks are 144 BCD, have a really nice finish. A finish similar even compared to your fancy pants Japanese cranks, and have a classic styling that looks good especially on steel bikes. And on top of that, they're a good chunk cheaper than your standard Sagino 75s or Omniums. I did notice that they were a touch less stiff than 75s or Omniums though, and there were times like sprinting from stops where their slight lack of stiffness was a minor annoyance. But if you want a classically inspired modern track crankset, you want to save a little bit of money, and you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of performance, the IRD Defiance are your best option. But say you don't want to sacrifice looks or performance, then the Suntours Superb Pros have got you covered. These are the forgotten child of NJS cranks, probably because they're not produced anymore. And because they're NJS, you know they're going to be stiff, reliable, and perform as well as you'll need them to, if not better. On top of that, they have a chiseled look to them that is both modern and classic at the same time. You can find these on the used market for around $150 to $200 US. The downside is because they're not produced anymore, they will be harder to find, and the condition will vary widely. And as far as I know, they only come in silver. But if you're looking for a silver crankset, these Suntours Superb Pros will be a ton of fun to ride, and also let your bike stand out from the crowd. Continuing with the Japanese component love, we have these Sousou Pro Max hubs. These days, cheap hubs have gotten really good, and in my eyes, more so than any other component on the bike, hubs are meant for flexing. And for some reason, fixed gear riders like to flex in the same ways and pretend that they're original with their Philwoods or Dura Aces that everyone seems to have. While those hubs, without a doubt, are excellent and look really cool, they're not base set holographic Charizard cool like the Sousou Pro Maxes at around $200. They're seal bearing, durable, capable of building a tight wheel set, just like any other hubs at this price. But in my opinion, these are the coolest hubs out on the market that not a ton of people are riding. That's probably because if you get these hubs, you have to do a custom wheel build, which can be costly. With that said, they're still a hell of a lot cheaper than Philwoods or Dura Aces, and for everyday street riding purposes, they'll perform just the same, all while looking a lot cooler. Next, we have a pedal setup that has become my favorite pedal setup that I've ever tried. MKS double straps with MKS stainless steel toe clips. This setup is plenty secure, comfortable, and grippy when paired with MKS Sylvans, and they look really classy with their tubular steel construction. What I really like about these toe clips though is that they have a bigger toe box, meaning that they can fit boots pretty easily. And because the tubular steel is round in construction, they don't scuff shoes nearly as badly as traditionally designed toe clips. The downside though is that the middle portion of the toe clip can get slightly bent out of shape, making the setup look a little bit asymmetrical. If you're really particular about your bike, then perhaps these won't be for you. Otherwise, this is my favorite pedal setup, and I haven't seen anyone else riding it, so if you're looking for pedals, try it out and see for yourself. Speaking of seeing for yourself, new Reasonably Dangerous t-shirts are available for a limited time. You can get them in this dark gray color or black. Swoop one while you can, linked in the description. Next up is the curious Wahby Dual Cog at around $40. This is a 16-tooth and 18-tooth cog combined into one. I tried this out when I was reviewing the Wahby Lightning SE, and to my surprise, both cogs ran really smoothly despite the slight difference in chain line. It's a touch more convenient than taking your rear wheel out and flipping to the other side of the hub, but it's especially useful if your hubs are only threaded on one side and you want a secondary gear ratio. It's a little bit lighter than two separate cogs, it's a little bit more convenient, it's not much more expensive than a regular cog, and it's a fun conversation piece on group rides. Another underrated Wahby component are Wahby's sub 15 wheels at around $350, and they're named sub 15 because it's sub 1,500 grams for the wheel set. I've been riding these wheels for the past year, and these have been the best riding wheels that I've ever tried. They weigh in at 1,475 grams with 20 spokes in the front and 24 in the rear, but because they're hand tensioned to perfection, they're built really tightly and have been really durable in my experience. I've been riding mine for the past year, up and down curbs, eating potholes, and they still don't need to be trued and no spokes are loose at all. And their weight makes them one of the lightest, if not the lightest wheel set under $1,000. That's just as far as my knowledge goes, feel free to fact check me on that one. And although they're aluminum with stainless steel spokes, they even rival the weight of some carbon wheels. This makes them a breeze to accelerate from stops, and it almost feels like cheating when riding uphill. The downside is that if you're outside of the United States, you might have to pay considerable shipping fees. Number 3 is the EAI Bare Knuckle at around $400 used. The Bare Knuckle is so underrated that unfortunately it has been discontinued. But it's a simple, no-nonsense track bike made in Italy with data tubing with really clean TIG welds, solid geometry, and a sweet lugged straight blade fork. It's not the most popular, and it's certainly not the most flashy frame set in the world, but it certainly does have a cult following, where everyone that rides one absolutely loves it, and everyone that sells one ends up regretting it. The Soma Rush is another underrated steel frame set at $450 to $500, depending on which year's finish you get. The Soma Rush takes heavy inspiration from NJS frame sets, but makes a few tweaks to make this track bike more practical for riding on the street. It's clearance for up to 32C tires, is drilled for brakes, and constructed out of Tongay Prestige tubing that gives it a compliant ride quality that will easily last a lifetime. On top of that, they have really cool finishes, and on their 2019 model, they went with the best color for a bike. And our last underrated Fixie components are Townie Bars. Townie Bars are a lot like risers, but more comfortable since their position lets your wrists rest at a much more natural angle. This makes them more comfortable for longer rides, and in my opinion, they climb better than risers because they have a better weight distribution over the front wheel when climbing out of the saddle. A couple of good set of Townie Bars to look at are the Nitto Boscos that I used to ride, or the Nitto Albatrosses at around $40 to $100, depending on if you get them heat treated or not. That said, you don't have to spend nearly that much money. You can find Townie Bars for $20 or less. Similar to risers though, they give a more upright riding position, which lets you see over traffic and is also just a ton of fun to ride. And when you're riding hard on them, it kind of feels like you're flying. Giving a bike to my cousin Anthony, and hopefully it fits him after the Townie Bars on it.
Bugs in my face!
How is it?
Oh my god. It's so crazy. Like
it looks like a cruiser, but it's like, it rips, right?
Yeah, no, it's like, it was kind of scary because I thought I was gonna like fly, you know? It's like, I just felt like I was gonna lift off the ground, you know? Like,
the downside to Townie Bars is the looks though. A lot of people think that they only belong on a grandpa's bike, but if you build your fixed gear intentionally, your build can show just how badass Townie Bars really are. Question of the day: are there any underrated fixed gear components that you really like that I didn't mention in this video? Like all you guys in the Philippines telling me about Ave Maldeo frame sets. Let me know in the comments. Speaking of awesome frame sets, our channel sponsor, Wabi Cycles, is the epitome of what makes cycling fun. Every one of Wabi's design choices are meticulously made to give you the purest ride quality for the money. And Wabi executes those choices perfectly with master craftsmen right here in Taiwan and a friendly bike shop in Denver, Colorado that is eager to answer your questions and get you on a bike that you'll love. This amounts to efficient, elegant, and timeless bikes that you can get from a passionate group of fellow cyclists. Wabi's relentless attention to detail results in Wallace, my 58-centimeter Wahby Special, weighing in at 17.5 pounds or 7.97 kilograms straight out of the box. That's well under 20 pounds for a completely steel lugged frame set that has no carbon components. That weight isn't just for quoting and impressing other cyclists though. It results in the best riding experience that I've ever had on a bike, with a snappy, responsive, and lively bike that only top shelf steel can bring. That pure fun makes it easy for me to ride Wallace, my Wahby Special, as my only bike as I travel throughout Asia. So if you're looking for the bike that could very well put an end to your search for the perfect bike, consider checking out Wabi Cycles, linked at the top of the description, because it really is the closest thing that I've ridden to the perfect bike. If you disliked this video, be sure to let me know and give it a thumbs down. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to watch more fixed gear videos just like this one. And if you haven't ridden your bike yet today, stop watching me right now, because life is short, but don't make it shorter. So ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous. And buy a shirt if you want to, link in the description.